I recently found out that my husband's mom is pregnant. She didn't tell me directly, probably wouldn't have wanted me to know as we don't get along well, at all. Still, we were on an outing for a mutual family member's birthday, and I heard her whining to an usher that they needed to bend the rules and let her back in her seat because she was pregnant, and that's why she got up. I immediately felt sick to my stomach. My husband and I don't keep secrets, and I felt like I had to tell him, but it also felt wrong. If I didn't tell him and he ever found out I knew, he would feel so betrayed. I ended up pulling her aside at the end of the night and letting her know that I knew and that I thought I had to tell him. She told me she wasn't ready and then told me she had no plans of telling him, maybe until the baby was born. What? I told her I would have to tell him, and she began to cry. She said she knew he would take it badly and feel he was being replaced since she hadn't talked to him in a while. And she said she's having a lot of weird feelings about not wanting him near the baby, but she thinks it's hormonal and it'll go away. She said she's even going to therapy to get into a place she can talk to him again. And please don't tell him. They used to be close, but she hates me with a passion, and it's ruined their relationship. I said I was so sorry, but I just don't keep secrets from my husband. She called me a stupid witch and ran off crying. I told my husband, and he didn't take it well at all. He called her, and there was a massive fight. And now mother-in-law's telling everyone that I'm evil and I betrayed her. The family's pretty split about if he had the right to know or not. Everyone's the idiot here. Mom and husband are in a dynamic that I'm not going to even touch. But there are problems, and obviously, he stuck you in there too, which is wrong. That being said, you're textbook meddling. Let them hash their own crap out. How would he possibly ever know you heard something? Who knows if she was even telling the truth? What do you gain or lose by getting involved in this ridiculous mess? Your whole family sounds like a drama magnet, to be honest. People don't seem to understand how it's meddling to run up to mother-in-law and start interrogating her about pregnancy. Like, why is that your business? You are the idiot. It wasn't your news to share, no matter how you received the information. You said that you and mother-in-law don't get along, and it's not surprising since you clearly don't respect her. This is not a matter of being unable to keep secrets from your husband. It's you being a busybody, crap stirrer. Learn to mind your own business. You sound like a teenage brat. OP and mother-in-law don't get along per the post. OP would prioritize making sure her relationship with her husband isn't damaged by keeping a secret, even if that would negatively impact her relationship with mother-in-law. From her perspective, why should she jeopardize her husband's trust in her to help someone who doesn't like her and she doesn't like back? Typically, when a mother-in-law doesn't like a daughter-in-law, there are other issues going on. She said she doesn't want her son around his baby sibling. The mother-in-law sounds like a full-on narcissist to me. Husband comes first. OP's being a good wife. Agree. OP's not the idiot. OP didn't make a public announcement or tell multiple people or scream it from the rooftops. She told her husband she knew he'd want to know, and people in a healthy relationship don't withhold information just because they can get away with it. To me, being honest and open with your partner is a pretty core competency in a relationship, and that includes the whole truth. Potential plot twist: she's not pregnant at all and lied to the usher so she could break the rules. And later, she didn't want her son or anyone to know because it was made up. I mean, it's not like mother-in-law was confiding it secretly to somebody and OP overheard that. She was saying it out loud to a random usher to get away with breaking a rule. Or mother-in-law is pregnant, isn't planning on keeping it, and doesn't want the backlash from her kid. OP, you were in a no-win situation. If you tell, someone will be angry, mother-in-law. If you didn't, someone would be angry, hubby. If I had found out my mother was pregnant and my husband knew all along and didn't tell me, I would be beyond angry. My daughters, teens, are on the same dance team. Their team won a competition on Sunday, and we were all so excited and proud of them. After the competition, my dad suggested we go out to eat and said he would pay for wherever we wanted. My oldest daughter, who loves seafood, has been asking for years to go to a restaurant with unlimited crab legs, but it's a very pricey restaurant, so we've never been able to go. She immediately suggested this restaurant. My dad liked the suggestion. My daughter suggested we go to her favorite restaurant, a local Mexican restaurant, instead. We've been there many times as it's much more affordable. Knowing this would be a wasted opportunity, I said the older daughter's suggestion made more sense because it was somewhere we'd never been. My youngest daughter complained she wouldn't like anything there, but I assured her the menu would have more than crab legs. We got there and sure enough, many dishes didn't have seafood, including steak, the youngest favorite. Even though there were dishes without seafood, the youngest daughter said she wasn't hungry because the restaurant smelled weird. So I ordered her steak anyway. The younger daughter pouted throughout the meal. She picked at her steak. The older daughter was very happy and completely absorbed in the crab legs. My mom tried to talk to my youngest daughter about the competition, but she wasn't responsive. At the end of the meal, we were all stuffed, except for the youngest. My dad told everyone to pick a dessert to go, except for the youngest, because she's clearly not hungry. I asked my dad to leave her alone, and he did, but she was already upset. When we got home, I tried to talk to her. I explained that this was a rare opportunity, and sometimes we must let someone else have something nice. I told her I could have taken us to the Mexican restaurant this weekend. She said it's not the same, because the restaurant we went to the night of the competition is special, and we went somewhere she didn't like. I pointed out that she didn't know she didn't like it because she didn't try it. She said I know she hates seafood, and that the restaurant is known for its seafood, so she wouldn't want to go there after a special event. She was annoyed Monday and Tuesday, but started to mellow on Wednesday. This morning she asked if we were going to the Mexican restaurant tomorrow. I said not this week because of her behavior, but we'll see next week. She wasn't happy. Am I too hard on her? I think she was very rude to her grandparents, but I know when you're a teenager everything feels like a bigger deal than it is. Should I have just let her behavior slide and taken her to the Mexican restaurant? Not the idiot. You're teaching her a valuable lesson here. Too many people seem to have the mentality of, when I'm done being angry and move on, you all have to as well, as though her mood improving absolves her of any accountability for her actions while being crappy. Everyone's the idiot here. I don't think it was particularly well done to choose a place only one child liked when both of them won the same competition and shared the achievement that earned eating out. It probably contributed hugely to the younger's attitude, since her wishes were entirely ignored and no compromise was offered. Just the older one got what she wanted. Were there any other places they could have cheerfully agreed to go? I disagree, because the oldest has never been to the restaurant she wanted, and the youngest always gets to go to her favorite. She'll learn that she can't always get what she wants. They both won the competition. They both were to be rewarded, but only one's feelings were considered for the reward. You told your youngest you wanted to celebrate her and to pick a restaurant, then ignored her once because you saw a chance to go somewhere you and your oldest wanted to try. Do I think she could have handled it better? Of course. But she's a teen, you're the adult, so you are the idiot. This week was the wedding of two of my husbands, 33 and my 31 female, longtime friends. For some background, recently we've been having issues. I told him I needed some space, so we agreed he should temporarily move back in with his mom. I wasn't thrilled about this because she tends to baby him, but I had to accept it as he had nowhere else to go, and I wanted him out of the house. I wondered what to do about the wedding. We talked and decided it would be best for us to go together and for him to move back home afterward. He didn't have time before the wedding to pack up his things, so he got ready at his mom's while I got ready at home, and we planned to meet there. When he arrived, I was already chatting with friends. He came over to us, and I immediately noticed this rotten stench on him. He smelled like he'd been dumpster diving. It made my eyes water a little. I saw our friends noticing, but he was completely oblivious and kept on chatting. I tried to discreetly let him know, but he wasn't getting the hint. We took our seats in the chapel and the service was beautiful. By this point, my nose had tuned out the smell, but it was clearly affecting other people, and I still hadn't had a chance to let him know. After the service, I saw an old girlfriend I hadn't seen in years and wanted to catch up. Apparently, while I was chatting with her, a friend had pulled hubby aside and told him he stunk. He got upset and demanded we leave immediately. In the car, we agreed, and he told me I was a horrible wife to let him embarrass himself like that in front of friends, and I was probably laughing behind his back. He said that I knew he could be forgetful, and since he was my responsibility as his wife, I should have called him up at his mom's to remind him to shower, Usually he'll come in when I'm in. Instead, I was speechless and said nothing the entire car ride home while he scolded me. This morning I checked my phone, and we've both been removed from a number of group chats, including friends that went to the wedding. I heard through some friends that the bride feels we ruined her day. More people were talking about my husband than we thought, and she no longer wants to speak with us. I'm shocked and hurt by this, and I've been feeling guilty all day. I didn't want to embarrass him by letting him know when other people were around, but now I've cost him friends and feel like I've handled it all horribly. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your husband is the one who ruined their day by showing up smelling like a whole carcass. You could have said something. You did not. From his reaction, I'd bet he'd be mad either way, telling him or not telling him. And honestly, he should be embarrassed. He's a grown man living with his mom, who still requires his wife to call him daily to remind him to shower. Screw that. Does a 33-year-old man have to be reminded to shower? How bad do you have to smell to ruin a wedding? He was projecting his shame into anger onto you. If you smell so bad that you're kicked out of a group chat, you need a long, hard look at yourself. OP, leave him with his mom. He needs a little more help from his mom in being a grown-up. I've seen my husband got mad at me for forgetting to wake him up. My husband got mad at me for making him the wrong food. My husband got mad at me for blah. But I've never seen my husband got mad at me for not telling him to shower. This is a historical day for mama's boys' incompetence and hygiene. Do you want to stay married to this excuse of a man? Seriously, no one, and I mean literally no one, should have to tell their spouse to shower. Being forgetful is no excuse for poor hygiene. Does he not have a nose? Is he incapable of smelling or even feeling the filth on his body? The fact that he berates you and puts this entire situation on you would be enough for me to make the separation official. This is appalling behavior. I, 45 male, have 2 daughters, young teen and teen, who were both excited to attend my brother, 38, and sister-in-law's, 22, wedding happening in 12 days. And so was I, until this morning when my brother and sister-in-law came for an unexpected visit. Another recent event was my younger daughter having to take a break from her soccer team after she tripped on the ball and suffered an injury to her face. The scars she gained from the impact were noticeable, but certainly not ruining. My sister-in-law didn't know about this and started acting oddly around my youngest daughter. After a quick snack, my sister-in-law asked to speak to me alone in a reluctant manner and told me that my daughter might make the guests uncomfortable at her wedding. When I asked her why she thought that way, she stated that the scar was noticeable and it would be best if my eldest daughter attended only. I got defensive quickly and told her that if my daughter wasn't allowed to come, I won't come. My brother overheard and tried to mediate the situation, but my sister-in-law told me if I didn't want to come, that was up to me. Ultimately, I told them to leave and that I wasn't attending the wedding. My sister-in-law left quickly, but my brother said that my sister-in-law shouldn't impact my choice to go, and that it was a tradition in every wedding to have the groom's brother attend. Am I the idiot? Wait, what? Seriously, what in the flipping flapjacks is wrong with your future sister-in-law and brother? The first reaction should have been like, oh my goodness, needs to be. I'm so sorry you went through that and so glad you're on the mend. You're one tough cookie. But clearly sister-in-law missed the compassion chip when she came down the assembly line. Not the idiot, OP. That's what your brother gets for marrying a 22-year-old bride. Total immaturity. Oh, your brother's also an idiot. Mediate? What is there to mediate? There should be no dispute that his fiancée was engaged in flagrant idioterization. And then to suggest that his fiancée shouldn't affect your decision to attend. Holy hairballs. That's not what's affecting your decision. Your future sister-in-law disinviting your daughter for a flocked-up reason is why. Wait, there's more. It was a tradition in every wedding to have the groom's brother attend? You can tell your brother it's also tradition not to marry someone young enough to be your child. Yeah, this incident should be a huge wake-up call to your brother about the type of person he's marrying, although the age gap indicates he doesn't have the best judgment anyway. Don't go, OP. Your brother's marrying a shallow individual, and you're standing up for your daughter. No one will be afraid. Shallow, too young for your brother worries about her day being ruined and pictures being forever scarred because of your daughter's appearance. She's too immature to be honest. I, 35 male, am married to a woman named Jess, 26. We dated for 2 years before the marriage and have been married for 1 year now. Most of my family has passed away, but I have, or rather had, one aunt from my mother's side. My Aunt Jill took an active role in raising me, making sure I was fed and clothed when my mother was unable or unwilling, which was often. We kept in touch, but living across the country from her, she and Jess never met. Yesterday morning I got the news that my Aunt Jill had suddenly passed away. I was shocked because she was still young, and her life was taken prematurely in an accident. I immediately told Jess. Jess was sympathetic at first, but I told her that I needed a while to be in my room. I went to my room, where I just mindlessly spaced out browsing through a new site. At some point, Jess knocked on my door and told me that I needed to talk about it, to which I responded that I appreciated the sentiment, but I just needed to be alone. Jess reacted harshly to this, saying I was an emotional black hole. Then she slammed my door and stomped away. For the next 2 hours, every 10 to 15 minutes or so, Jess would open my door abruptly and half shout, asking if I was ready to be an adult. I grew increasingly impatient until I just stood up and went out for a walk. When I got home about an hour later, the chain was locked on our front door, which we never use, and I repeatedly knocked and pushed the doorbell until Jess said she'd only let me in if I agreed to talk about what happened. I said no, so Jess walked away. Eventually she unlocked it because I kept pounding on the door, and she didn't want me embarrassing her in front of the neighbors. Jess is furious at me now, saying that I'm not really grieving because I'm online. She said that I needed to let her in on my feelings, but I responded that it's hard to let her in on my feelings when she just refused to let me into our house. That set her off even more. Am I being a mega idiot here? Not the idiot, but your wife certainly is. There is no right or wrong way to grieve, and by pushing you into grieving her proper way, she's making it harder for you to process your aunt's death. Her locking you out is a solid idiot move, as it is not giving you space to process how you're feeling. She needs to apologize to you and back off. Honestly, this is such a red flag. Locking you out of your own home? That's over the top. This is a very troubling reaction from her. Your wife seriously needs to grow up. Does she always throw her dolly out of the pram if she doesn't get her own way? OP, run. She doesn't want to make you feel better. This is all for her. Not everybody handles grief the same. She should respect your wishes and give you space. And throwing a temper tantrum like that is a huge red flag. Like I said, run. My nearly adult female. Mom died a little over a year ago. I was living with her full time before she passed. She left me a lot of money in her house. Since the house was just going to stay empty until I was done with college, my aunt on my mom's side and I talked about it, and we agreed she would stay there since she's taking care of my grandma and her place was small. So I'll move back in once I finished my schooling. My dad assumed my mom left me her money and left the house to my aunt. I didn't correct him because I don't trust my dad or have a great relationship with him. I'm currently living with him, his wife Jan, and her twin daughters, nearly adult, both lovely people, in a 3-bedroom flat. 2 months ago, he found out that my mom left me the house. I'm not sure how he found out, but he did. Since then, I haven't heard the end of it. I'm selfish for making us all stay in a tiny flat. I'm spoiled because I won't share my inheritance. I'm terrible for making the twins take out loans. You get the gist. This weekend was the twins' birthday at my grandma's house. Most of my dad's family was there. We get along great usually, and his wife's family and some of their friends were there, along with the twins' friends. After they were done opening my present to them, they asked me if that was really it. I got them matching bracelets with their birthstones, which they both loved, by the way. It got quiet, and I asked them what else they were expecting. They said Jan said that I was planning on surprising them on their birthday by telling them we were moving into my mom's house and helping them with college. My grandma asked Jan if this was true, and Jan started in on me again. She asked what she could do to make me stop being a witch, pull my weight, help out, and be fair. I told her she could drop dead. I told her my mom died for me to get all of these things that she wanted me to give her daughters. I said if she wanted everything to be fair, then she should drop dead, and I'd share everything I had with her daughters since we all would have lost a mother, that it would be fair only after that happened. She and my dad started yelling at me, and my grandma and uncle started yelling at my dad and Jan, and everything else was pretty much over after that. The whole ride home, my dad and Jan were getting calls and texts from family and friends telling them they were disappointed in them. And I was getting texts from Jan's family, the twins' friends, and a few of my cousins saying I was selfish. I don't usually fight with my cousins, so I'm really starting to think maybe I'm being selfish and that I went too far at the twins' party. Am I the idiot? Edit. I can't live with my aunt. My grandma needs a lot of space right now, and our setup has gotten the best results for her. I love my grandma, but seeing her on the brink of death sends my mind to a bad place. I tried staying the weekend once, and I had a panic attack. A rare time when you can tell someone to drop dead and still be not the idiot. At your young age, I wouldn't have had the verbal creativity or emotional fortitude to advocate for myself so expertly. You are, in fact, a hero for ensuring your aunt has housing security as she cares for your aging grandmother, for standing up for yourself in the face of emotional immaturity of the adults around you, and for investing in yourself. Hon, block every single one of these people. They're not your family. Your family's supporting you because they love you, and don't give anyone a dime until you've figured out your motives. Cat is out of the bag, and the family can be the slimiest. They don't own you, and this BS where Jan made up a story about what you were going to do and then surprised you with it? Incredible. I hope you get out as soon as you can. Yeah, surprise them on their birthday by telling them they were moving into my house and I'm helping them with college. The sheer audacity that Jan had in attempting to coerce a kid into giving up their assets is alarming. Calling you selfish for ensuring your grandmother and her carer have what they need is textbook projection. OP, make sure your money and the house are secured. Your mom died. It's your inheritance, your house and your money. It doesn't belong to anyone but you. It's not your responsibility to take care of anyone. Your dad is a grown adult. He needs to work and get a bigger house to provide for his new family. I'm so sorry you lost your mom. I hope her memory will always be a blessing. I, 42 female, told my 19-year-old daughter, who currently lives with her fiance, 36 male, that she must either choose her soon-to-be husband or us. Unfortunately, who she met when she was newly turned 18 at her father's, 49 male, business conference. He's made it seem like we're the bad guys who don't want them together, but that's not it. We don't want them together because of who she's become. She's now distant and only gives us bland replies, which we know he has indoctrinated her with. She hasn't spoken to her father because she doesn't want work issues between them, which again wouldn't happen. Instead, he lavishes her with materialistic gifts to manipulate her into loving him or his company. He proposed to her just after a year of their relationship. Recently, we invited her and him over because we knew she wouldn't come if we didn't invite him. However, she still declined and told us she was going to his family's cabin. We told her they could come a couple of days later, but she still declined. That's when I called her and told her, this isn't going to be tolerated by your father and me any longer. I informed her that she must either respect our wishes or his, and she just told us to sleep because we seemed sleep deprived from the foolish questions we were asking. I haven't spoken to her since, 3 days ago, but am I the idiot for giving her an ultimatum? You are the idiot for making her choose, because it sounds like she doesn't have a choice. This man has a million red flags and is clearly trying to ensure all family and friends shut her out and stop contact, a clear sign of an abuser. They stop contact with everyone, so she's stuck in this relationship and has no one else to turn to. In my opinion, I would apologize and say you're always here for her, no matter what, because ultimately, that could be her lifeline. My mom told me that she got mixed up with my awful dad because she desperately wanted to leave her repressive parents. She jumped into a relationship with the first guy that showed her any interest. Within a year, she got pregnant twice and had me a month after her 18th birthday. She stayed in part due to her parents' reactions. I honestly can't help but think she's entered a relationship with a much older man for his ability to get her away from you. OP, I think your child needs your help and support now more than ever. She's not okay, as you know. She's in a very unhealthy relationship, and she's just a kid, but legally an adult. So there's nothing you can do about that except refuse to allow him to isolate her. Don't help that idiot. Be there for her even if you don't like her choice. It's going to end, but she won't have anywhere to turn. Do not help him isolate her. Let her know you disagree with her choice, yes, but that you love her and will always support her. And then do not talk about it. First, a little backstory. 3 years ago, I, 37 female, gave birth. Since then, I've been at home, raising my daughter. Now that she's older, I decided to get a part-time afternoon job so that my husband, 40, could watch over our daughter while I worked. At first, I found a job at a pastry shop, but the owner was terribly rude, and I was working overtime, unpaid every day, so I left. I started working at a burger joint, and I actually really enjoy it. The problem started when I started going to work 15 minutes earlier and leaving a little later to get to know my coworkers. Everyone was welcoming and helpful, and I felt rude leaving the second my shift was over, while everyone else was staying for a bit to chat. My husband said he was okay with me going in a little early, but that's it. Yesterday, I worked until midnight. We were really understaffed, and I didn't even get my break or even drink a cup of water during my whole shift. At midnight, my manager asked me to stay for another hour, so I did. The second I entered the crew room, I heard my phone ringing. It was my husband. I grabbed my jacket and called him back. I told him I had just gotten off work and how busy it was. He asked me if I knew where he was, and I didn't understand the question until I saw him with our toddler a minute away from my job at 1 a.m. He started yelling at me and saying that I should have called him, that he was worried, and that things had to change because things would get worse. He also forbade me from calling him while he's at work. He works for himself. He has an office. At some point, I tried to calm things down by apologizing for not notifying him and explaining to him that I couldn't just go to the crew room because I was at the register. However, he said that he didn't accept the apology, and we haven't talked since. Am I really that much of an idiot for not notifying him for working an extra hour? P.S. My job is 2 blocks from our home, and I walk one of the most well-lit and busier streets to get there. I get why your husband's upset. He was expecting you to be home a little past midnight, and at 1 you're still not there. You're not picking up your phone. It's the middle of the night, and something bad could have happened to you. The only thing he could do was come to your work to check and bring the kid with him. What else was he supposed to do? Call the actual restaurant instead of taking an infant out in the middle of the night. OP, you could have said to your manager when he asked you to stay longer that you needed a minute to inform your husband. You were an hour late home, at midnight. I understand he was worried. He could have, however, behaved like a normal adult, not yelling like a madman. He was most likely afraid, and fear is a powerful feeling that can make people act badly. Maybe you should both act like adults and talk to each other. I'm sorry, but you are the idiot. You could have asked the manager for a break to, number 1, get a darn drink of water, and number 2, notify your husband that you're working late so he doesn't worry. You should have told your boss that you didn't have a problem with overtime, but you'd have to let your family know. My sister-in-law, Diane, was a nurse in the Pacific Northwest. She lived in a very high cost of living city. 15 years ago, she bought a small apartment in a new development. It took about 2 years to build. In that time, the price of apartments in that building went up by about 30%. Nevertheless, she didn't sell it because it was perfect for her. Unfortunately, she was diagnosed with breast cancer about 2 years after she took possession. She really didn't want to move back to Minnesota, so she asked her family for money to keep up with the mortgage. None of them had the money, and her mom wanted her to move home. I was friends with her before I married her sister, just friends, nothing more. She asked me for help. I bought the apartment from her. I took over the mortgage, and I didn't charge her rent. I paid all the taxes and condo levies. She got enough money from her insurance and a side hustle to live there. My wife knew we were helping her, but we didn't say anything because her mom was angry that she didn't move home after her diagnosis. Diane passed away last month. She had a hard life for the last decade, but she was happy. So when her mom got a copy of the will, she was furious. The apartment is worth a lot of money now. It's in a great building in a good neighborhood. She was expecting the apartment to sell and for there to be money to split up amongst all of her grandchildren. Diane never married and never had kids. Mother-in-law found out about the deal I made with Diane. My wife and I own the apartment outright. After we clear it out and get rid of all her stuff, we'll rent it out. The income it'll generate will pay for our retirement in a while, and then we'll sell it. Our kids will have a nice nest egg to help them. But now my mother-in-law told everyone how we took advantage of her daughter in her time of need and stole her apartment, and how Diane would be upset if she knew we weren't sharing all the money from her apartment. It is really starting to bug my wife, and she says she should sell it and help out all of the nephews and nieces. I showed her a spreadsheet of all of our costs for the apartment. If I subtract all of my cost and lost opportunities for the investment, the 8 nibblings might get $3,000 each when everything's said and done. I said if she wanted, we could give them each that much to get her family to drop it. Her family says that it's BS, that we should sell the apartment and split it equally. I said I'd be willing to do that in return for each of them paying 1/3 of the money I invested over the last 10 years. They don't think that's fair. My wife is upset, and her family's upset, and I'm just trying to be fair to myself. I spent 10 years giving up other investments and toys for myself and helped out Diane instead, and now I'm getting crapped on. Not the idiot. The family's just upset because they assumed Diane left them an estate that they could split amongst themselves. But that's just greedy. You enabled Diane to live independently for as long as possible, and the house is your property, not part of Diane's estate. If her family members had chipped in to support her during the last 10 years, there might be an estate worth fighting over. Your in-laws sound really greedy. If it's all about helping family, why didn't they help Diane out financially when she needed their support? They didn't support her when it wouldn't benefit them, but now that she's gone, they expect some financial gain from her death. I know grief does weird things to people, but that's just a screwed up mindset. Yeah, this falls under the no good deed goes unpunished rule. You did a good thing, a great thing actually, in helping Diane. It'd be ashamed if you lost your retirement boon just because greedy, entitled people are being loud. You know they aren't going to be happy about this no matter what, right? Even if the nibs get $3,000, the complaining and lies will not end. So do what you intended to do and keep it for your retirement. I, 28 female, am part of a group of 9 female friends. Except for another woman and me, let's call her Daisy, they do not have kids. Daisy and I had our kids 3 weeks apart. Both of our children are infants. My husband and I are very lucky that we're financially secure and that our combined income is the mid-6 figures. Daisy and her husband are not, and most of our other friends are not as well. Now that I'm back to work, I decided that it was also time to get back to a routine, somewhat close to my old one. I didn't want to be the kind of woman who only defines herself as a mother, and there's nothing wrong with that, and as I said, I have the means to help with that. We hired an au pair, and it's been life-changing. I still spend a lot of time being a mom, and I love my daughter, but now I get to go to the gym. I'm rested because I don't have to be up with her all night. I can go to brunch with my friends, and last Saturday I even went clubbing. I didn't drink since I breastfeed, but I still had fun with my friends. On the other hand, Daisy's exhausted and hasn't had the time to go out with us. Very understandable. So we made sure to visit her, and the one time she agreed to go to brunch, we made sure to choose a child-friendly restaurant. After seeing some photos we posted on social media of us enjoying the club, she sent a text in the group chat asking why we didn't invite her. Another friend said she was invited, but she declined since she couldn't spend that much time away from her son. Then Daisy said that we should have done what she suggested instead, which was to have a nice dinner at a family-friendly restaurant, then just spend a couple of hours at home chatting. The same friend replied that we did that last weekend and that they wanted to have fun. Daisy said that it wasn't fair that she was being excluded for being a mom, but that same friend replied that she wasn't and that she was being dramatic. Then she said if we were excluding moms, my name would have been excluded too. Daisy then calls me. As soon as I picked up, she started scolding me about giving our friends a false idea of what being a mom is, that most moms don't have the means to hire help the way that I do, that normal people have to sacrifice a lot of things once they have kids, and that me not having to do that makes her seem like a bad friend and stops our other friends from accommodating her. At the time, I didn't know what the whole deal was about, but I could kind of understand the situation. So I told her that normal moms leave their kids with their fathers to go out with their friends. It was entitled people who expected the whole world to change because they decided to have kids. After reading the whole argument on the group chat, though, I think that I went overboard and that I really might be doing exactly what she accused me of. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. The world isn't fair. It's a bummer for Dee that she can't afford to hire help, but she still chose to have a kid. The group isn't excluding her, especially if they occasionally accommodate her motherhood. Of course the group dynamics were going to change. She can't honestly expect that a mostly child-free group is suddenly going to want to only socialize around breastfeeding schedules and baby-friendly themes. Yeah, she's also probably more than a little jealous that you have the means to acquire help and get some of your life back. It sounds like maybe the father isn't stepping up, or maybe she's putting too much of the care of the little one on herself and is starting to crumble under the pressure, and you got the brunt that day. Everybody sucks here. You headed right into idiot territory with that comment, especially the normal moms. That was a crappy thing to say to a friend of yours. But on the other hand, your friend shouldn't be blaming you for your parenting choices. So there's that. Frankly, I find it a little odd that 9 friends are finding time to do something every weekend, but you can't find time for her.